2-week reading vlog. Well, like a week and a half. Well, like a week and some change. Is Thursday, November the 12th. And this is just gonna go on until next week. I just finished my reread of The Clockwork Princess. 5 out of 5 stars. Who's surprised? And I am 275 pages into House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. I need to get to the 400 page mark by Saturday to keep up with my buddy read. I will of course have all of my buddy read information down below so you can check out her Instagram. But aside from that, I have several library books that I need to get through. A lot of them are due back like in the next couple of days because we love cutting it close. I have The Space Between Worlds, which is the book about the girl, like it's multiple different worlds and you can travel between them, but you can only travel to worlds where yourself in that world has already died. I also got Stalking Jack the Ripper, which is, I'm guessing it's like a 1800s murder mystery. I got Nevernight by Jay Kristoff, which I don't know what it's about. It's about this assassin girl. Oh, Wrath in the Dawn by Renee, Audie, which I don't know what it's about. I think that's it. So next weekend, which is Thursday through Sunday, I will be house sitting for my dad. He has a farm, so I'll be taking care of a lot of animals and stuff. The rest of this weekend and then all of next week, I don't really have much going on until Thursday. So I hope to get a lot of reading done. I didn't do a November TBR, even though I've been trying to do my TBR game because I kind of just want to read romance this month. Like I want to get through the books that I already have so far, like reserved and stuff. But other than that, like I really just want to read romances. And like my first romance on deck, which I don't know when I'm going to read it, is Go Deep by Rosie Adams, which I think is like a friends to lovers thing. And then I also want to read Desperate Measures by Katie Roberts, which is the first book in her villains series, where it's like villains but sexy, I guess. And it was like free, so I was like, why the heck not? So yeah, those are the books I'm gonna read. It's like mega storming here and everything's flooded, so I wasn't able to like leave my house. Like my street's literally flooded. My backyard, I look like I have a pool, and my front yard looks like I have a pool as well. So I can't really do much like leaving the house, which is fine by me. Yeah, so I'm gonna get back into Crescent City. I'll give you guys my thoughts when I'm at the 400 page mark, but thus far it's okay. Like it's not easy to get through. It definitely is a slow read, and not slow as in like nothing's happening, but it's just a lot of world building all the time, and it's kind of dense. It's not written poorly. I mean, it's written like a Sarah J. Maas book, so it's written okay. But yeah, so I'll give you guys my thoughts at the 400 page mark. We'll talk about the 400 pages that I've read thus far, and I'll let you guys know what's up, because I know a lot of people are hesitant to pick up the book. I was hesitant to pick up the book. I was scared. I didn't know if I was gonna like it. So we will chat about that when I get to the 400 page mark. Halfway through House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas, so let's talk about it. This is essentially the story of Bryce, who is a half fae, half human, who has a tragedy happen in her life. She is recruited by District 33, I think it's called, or something like that, to assist in figuring out what the crime is, like why it happened, who did it, etc. She is put together with, or like made to work with, Hunt, who is a angel that is a slave to other angels, I guess. Like he's the current slave to the angel that like runs the city, like the governor, and his job is basically to kill whoever the governor wants him to kill. But he puts him on this investigation because I don't really know why, but he basically gives Hunt a pretty good deal and says like, I will shorten your sentence as a slave if you will get this job done and figure out what is going on, basically. And so he and Bryce have to team up to figure out this crime, who did it, why they did it, and it's seems to be connected to a larger mythological or like magical artifact that was stolen. You're also getting the point of view of another Fae prince who is related to Bryce. I am enjoying it. So at the core, it is a murder mystery, but it's a murder mystery with fantastical creatures or paranormal creatures, and that's basically what it is. And there's like a slow burn romance between Bryce and Hunt. I am loving it from the aspect of like the murder mystery thing, like trying to figure out who it is and how everything connects and all that kind of stuff. I'm not enjoying the writing or the main character Bryce. It seems to me that Sarah J. Maas can only write certain types of characters. So like her characters are just carbon copies of other characters that she has. It's not a bad thing if you like those types of characters, but I personally cannot stand Bryce. I have not liked any of the female characters that I've read in any of the Sarah J. Maas books. Like, I don't like any of them. I think they're all pretty annoying. Sarah J. Maas, like, constantly talks about how attractive they are and how everyone wants to do them. And it's annoying. And she always has, like, a pseudo-woke male as, like, the female counterpart. And I don't know, they're just like all the same, and like their backstories are the same. And just like general writing things, like she continues to use M dashes because she loves them. And her plot twists you can see from a mile away. Like I think already predict the plot twists that are gonna happen 400 pages from where I'm at now, because she just makes it so obvious. It's a murder mystery. Like if the whole point is like you're trying to connect all of these dots, it's not a great setup for a murder mystery, but it's also not a quick read. So you probably have heard a lot of complaints of like it being dense, info dumpy story for the majority of the book, and that's true. So I'm at 400 pages and I'm still getting some info dump, but not nearly as bad as like the first 50 or so pages. Honestly, the first 25 pages is like one piece of dialogue and then like 50 paragraphs of world building and then more dialogue. And it's a lot. It's a lot to figure out, and it's like hard to keep track of, and it's hard to like figure out. A lot of world building is like showing and not telling. So like the interactions between races and like how the government works and like the structure of this world, we really need to be able to see it, not be told it. Because if you're just dumping us into this world and then you're giving us like 300 years of backstory, then it's kind of going to be hard to connect. And I know like I've spent the last like however little bit dumping on this book, but I am enjoying it. Like I'm still reading it. I'm at 400 pages. I'm starting to like get to the point where I want them to, well, I want something to happen. I want the romance, and I'm also kind of still in this like mystery. Like I want to know what happened. I want to know if like all of my assumptions are correct. And it's interesting enough that I'm being carted along. I'm not wholly enjoying myself, like I'm not loving it, but I'm interested enough that I want to continue and that I will end up reading 400 more pages. So clearly it's doing enough for me that I'm investing time into the story. That's where I'm at. And my buddy Reed and I actually decided that we are just going to read all the way through and then talk when we are done. So I'm probably going to try to knock out as much of this as I can, but I do need to start on my library books. So I think tonight I'm going to set it down for now. So yeah, that's the deal with House of Earth and Blood. And I am gonna go start that book, and I will let you guys know how I'm feeling about it. Saturday night, I don't know what date it is, this date, and I have finished 3 books since we last talked. I finished Stalking Jack the Ripper, which is a murder mystery about a young girl who wants to be a mortician, and her uncle is a mortician and she's like training under him, and then when this serial killer starts murdering people, she wants to investigate. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. I don't know if like we were supposed to know who it was from the very beginning, like if it was supposed to be a mystery, or I don't know, but I immediately guessed it. And so the rest of the story was just kind of bland. The characters are bland. Like the only thing that was like really strong in the story was the setting. The setting was like during the time of stalking Jack the Ripper in London. So it had like, the atmosphere was great, but none of the rest of it was great. Like all of the like red herrings and stuff were obvious, and it didn't do anything for me. I then finished The Space Between Worlds, which is the multiverse story about the woman that can, like in this world, you can travel to different worlds as long as the you from that world is dead. And I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I had a hard time reading this, and I think it's because of the pacing. Like when I finished it, I couldn't quite figure out what about it I was struggling with, and the pacing was very odd, and it felt like something would happen like all at once, and then you'd get like 50 or so pages of nothing happening, and then something happens in like 10 pages, and then 50, like, you know, so on and so forth. I felt like we could have gotten a little bit more of the explanation of like how it works, but the author took the route of like her main character being kind of like an unimportant person, so she didn't care to figure out like the concept behind it. And that kind of lent itself to a not well-developed world building, I guess, and kind of hard to fully grasp what's going on, why they're doing it. Like all of it was just very flat, but the actual like premise is really interesting, and I would read another book about these characters. The ending just wrapped up so quickly. Nothing happened, and like it went at a breakneck speed that made no sense and didn't flow with the rest of the story. And so I kind of wish that we were getting more from the story than we did, but I'm not mad that I read it. Like I'll definitely read more from this author, and like if they decided to write another book, I wouldn't be like in the series, like I wouldn't be opposed to reading it. I just think that this was like lacking in some ways, and I think pacing really messed it up. And then the third book that I finished was House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas, the first book in the Crescent City series. I just finished this, so I'm like trying to still figure out how I felt about this. So this is an 800-page book. Let's start with that. There is no need for this to be 800 pages. Like, there's a lot of this that could have been cut down. There's a lot of fat in this story that could have been cut down. That being said, the complaints about it being slow for the first like 400 pages and the pacing being weird, I don't agree with that. I think that this is paced just fine. And every single time I picked up the book, like I had no complaints about how it was going. I will say like the ending is distinctively more fast-paced than the rest, but not in like a jarring way. Like A Space Between Worlds, it was very jarring how different the pacing of the ending was from the rest of the story, but this had a natural pace change, I felt like. These characters we've seen before, so if you like these types of characters, you like this like, very specific archetypal characters, or if you have liked her characters in the past, you won't have an issue with this. I would like to see something fresh and new from her, because at this point I have read the whole ACOTAR series, and I read the first book in the Throne of Glass series, and I'm not seeing anything new from this. So I would like to see some different characters. This is a murder mystery at its core. It has like paranormal elements in there, and it has a broader story going on, but the actual straight plot is a murder mystery, and there's no nuance to it whatsoever. Either the plot twists you could pick up page 1, or they were so left field that you could have never guessed that. And I know for some people, like, they don't mind that. They don't mind that some things come out of left field. But if I'm trying to solve a murder mystery and I'm trying to put all of these pieces together, I need you to give me the pieces to be able to figure it out. I still enjoyed, like, piecing everything together and seeing how everything tied up. And, like, when I figured something out, I'm like, okay, duh. Another complaint, and this is a pretty common thing with Sarah J. Maas books, is her overpowered characters with no need for training or character development. So an overpowered character that is just overpowered for the sake of it and doesn't have to train or have to learn feels very unnatural. They didn't have to do anything. It keeps you from having to develop your character and having to show your character, like, training and learning and all that stuff. And so it's kind of like an excuse to make your character have plot armor, and it lowers your stakes a lot because they're just overpowered for no reason, and you know, because they're so overpowered, that everything's gonna go their way. You can assume that anyways because this is a series, or going to be a series, but I don't feel like I felt anything too bad was going to happen because of everyone being overpowered. That's something that I don't like. I didn't like that in ACOTAR. I did not like it in the first Throne of Glass book, which is the only one I read. And I'm not a fan of that trope, and that's pretty common, it seems like, in her books. And my last complaint for this is the amount of info dump. So I would say for the first 100 pages, there's still stuff going on, there's still plot happening, but you're getting a lot of info dump, and it's paragraph after paragraph. So rather than you being shown the world and how the world works, you are getting a lot of exposition, and you're getting a lot of, like, just pages of explanation of how the government works and their history and the kind of animals and creatures there are. One of the things that I liked about this was that you could tell that a lot of time and effort was put into building this world, and even though the execution wasn't fantastic, you can still see the way that all of the parts of this world interact. You can, like, feel the government and feel all of the, like, little rebellions, and you can feel how the citizens feel and the varying levels of citizens, and you can kind of pull this back to real life in a lot of ways, so it feels like a real world. And so I liked that. So even though we got most of our world building through info dumping in that first 100 pages, I still feel like it did a sufficient enough job that I understood the world. Another thing that I really liked about this was Hunt. If her other stories are any indication, I don't think that he's going to be endgame, but I liked him as a character. I liked his character arc. There was, like, one hiccup where I didn't really feel like it fit with his character, but also it kind of did, and I enjoyed his character as a whole, and I hope that Sarah J. Maas doesn't completely do something out of character to him. You know what I mean? And the last thing that I really appreciated about this was the side characters. You're also getting kind of minor subplots of other characters in the story and, like, how they're interacting with Bryce and Hunt. And they were interesting and developed enough and had enough of a voice on their own that you cared about their subplots and, like, wanted to know more. So overall, I think that this was a pretty good foray into adult fantasy. There are definitely some things that I don't like, and I think the things that I don't like are just going to persist. They just seem to be things that Sarah J. Maas is comfortable writing, and that is, like, totally a me thing, and I don't have any issue continuing to read. Like, obviously the issues that I had with, like, Bryce's personality and just, like, the more carbon copy nature of all of her characters wasn't enough for me to rate this low or, like, not read it at all. And, like, the overpowered aspect, again, I knew it was coming. Like, I could tell page 1 that it was coming. I knew it was coming, and I still read it, and I still rated it highly. And so I kind of just know that that is going to be something that she does with her stories, and I've just, like, accepted it. So those are the 3 books that I have read, and one I spoke significantly longer about. I just think that Stalking Jack the Ripper, it was like 330 pages, and between the worlds, what is it? It was also like 330 pages, and I just can't form like a whole lot of opinion and emotion about a book that is that long, that short. And I mean, they weren't bad. I just didn't really have any like resounding opinions about them. The next thing that I'm going to be reading is The Wrath in the Dawn by Renee Audie. I'm not quite sure what it's about. It's got a pretty high rating, and I read The Beautiful earlier this year by her, which I know The Wrath in the Dawn was written before The Beautiful, and I enjoyed her writing. I don't have like super high expectations for it. And then the other ebook that I have for my library is Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. So we'll see how that one goes. I've heard mixed things about that, just the actual like writing style of it. So yeah, I'll update you guys when I am reading something. Okay, so it is Monday, and last night I finished Go Deep by Rosie Adams. Girl, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I also read earlier this year the other Rosie Adams book. I'll pop it up on the screen, but I also gave that one 5 out of 5 stars. She might be the best sex scene writer I have read. She's amazing at writing sex scenes and like sexiness. Like, this book was insane. Let me go back. So basically it's a short novella, but it's about two people who have been friends for their whole lives, literally their whole lives, since they were in the womb. The female part of the friendship is a romance writer, and she like is very uninspired, so she goes to her best friend and says, I want you to bring my groove back, like help me get back into the swing of things. It's been a while, there's some cobwebs down there, let's get back into it. And they do, and whew, I loved it so much. She's gonna be like an auto read author, I can already tell, because wow, change your panties. Check her out, you're welcome. I started and DNF'd The Wrath in the Dawn. I got like 21% of the way in. My Goodreads update right before I DNF'd was, so she tells you one story and then lets you masturbate inside of her and your ride or die. I don't get it. Like, it was, if that is how the story goes and they literally fall in love at that point, they had like 3 conversations. So basically there seems to be like this thing going on where the king marries a woman, and then on her wedding night, I guess the morning after, she gets killed, and the female main character like knows someone that this happened to, and so she's like trying to avenge her murder, and so she like volunteers to get with the king. And then the first night, to like get out of being killed, she's like, I'm gonna tell you a story, and then when the morning comes, the story's not over, so he's like, okay, I'll give you another day, which I don't know why. And then the second night they come to like get her, and he's like, no, she's good, she's my queen now. You had a conversation about a story that didn't end, then a conversation about her being able to shoot a bow, and then another story that didn't end. I don't understand. I don't understand where the love came from, but the writing was actually pretty good. Like, I read it pretty quickly. As far as like actual bare bones writing style, none of the other stuff was written well. I don't know why the girls were dying. I don't know anything. All I know is they were in love at 21%, and I was not here for it. Now I'm gonna start Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. I'm not entirely sure if I know what this is about. As far as I think I know, it's about a girl named Mia whose family was like slaughtered, and she wants revenge, so she tries to get into this like assassin school. That's all I know. The only other thing I know is like the writing style is really weird. There's like a weird amount of like footnotes. I'm literally on page 1, so I don't know if I'll jive with it. But Gia Bookrose basically said, like, basically at the beginning, you'll know, like, whether it's for you and whether you're going to be able to read it or not, or if you're not going to be able to, you know, if you're not going to like it. And I ended up reserving a bunch of J.R. Ward books because I have no self-control when it comes to Libby. That's the deal on that. I'm going to go try to read Nevernight, and we'll see what happens. Erica, if I hate it, I'm sorry. Don't kill me. Hey guys, so it is Tuesday morning. I am the only one at the office, So I'm gonna be reading today. Yesterday I read the graphic novel Are You Listening? It's about two women who go on like a road trip together, I guess. And there is like talk of sexual assault and all that. It's not like depicted or anything, but it's like magical and weird and some stuff happens, and I didn't rate it. Like, it was just weird and the dialogue was weird and it was hard to follow, but the art style, like the illustrations, were absolutely gorgeous. I have started Nevernight and I am on page 23, so I am 5% of the way in, and I definitely understand like some of the complaints about the writing. It is very analogy and metaphor heavy, like it's very pretentious, and the footnotes are like weird to get into, and there's like a lot of mirroring and repeating sentences, and like it's interesting. It's not gonna be for everyone, but I'm not hating it. I'm gonna continue reading it and we'll see how I like it. I haven't really gotten much into the story, so I've really just met Mia, even though I haven't even gotten her name yet, and she's traveling somewhere. We'll see. I am the only one in the office today, like I said, so I don't really have a whole lot going on, and I don't really have a whole lot going on today in general. Tomorrow is my last day before I go to my dad's, so I needed to like do some cleaning, get the animals prepped when I leave and pack and stuff. I'm only gonna be gone for 4 days, but I want to make sure that like my partner is like set up and it's as easy for him as possible. And other than that, that's kind of the only things that I've got going on. So I guess I will update you guys when I'm further into Nevernight and have like some actual thoughts, besides like it's weird and written very pretentiously. Besides that, I also have been wanting to get into Brandon Sanderson Cosmere. So if you have been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that I got Way of Kings and I also got Mistborn, but I did some research into like the Cosmere, which is like his world that he writes in, and where to like how to read it and where to start. And the thing that I read says to start with Elantris. So I got Elantris and I'm waiting for it to come in. So basically it's like Elantris, then Mistborn, which is a trilogy, but there's like a spin-off trilogy that I don't know if you have to read. And then Warbreaker, which is a standalone. Elantris is a standalone. And then there's the Mistborn trilogy, and then the standalone for Warbreaker. And then however many books are in The Way of Kings. The Way of Kings is like incredibly scary for me, honestly. It's really big, and I tried listening to the audiobook and then reading it physically for like 100 pages, and I was just confused. But I'm hoping, because I'm reading all of these books, like by the time I get to Way of Kings, I'll be like comfortable with his writing and comfortable with his world building and just like understand his style a little bit more. But that's the deal. I don't know when that's even gonna start. I'm gonna start when the Elantris gets here, but I don't know why I told you guys that. But yeah, I'm gonna read Nevernight and I'll let you guys know my thoughts on it. Hey guys, it is time to wrap up this vlog. I forgot that the Gilmore-a-thon readathon is going on, so I'm going to stop here and do a separate vlog for that this weekend. It ends the 22nd, which is Sunday. So let's talk about the things that I read this week. So I read The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson and gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I read Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco and gave it 2 out of 5 stars. I read House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas and gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I read Go Deep by Rilsey Adams, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars. I read Are You Listening by Tilly Walden, which I did not rate, but was pretty okay. And then I finished Desperate Measures by Katie Robert last night. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. This is part of her Villains series. The main like central plot throughout the series is a sex club that is run by Hades. The first book is about Jafar and Jasmine, and Jafar is like a crime boss and Jasmine is the daughter of a rival crime boss, and then Jafar kills her dad at the very beginning and like owns her now. I really liked it. I love Katie Roberts' writing. I think she's one of the best sex scene writers there is. So just very good. I don't know how many pages it was. And those are all of the books that I read in this reading vlog. Comment down below if you've read any of these books and you like them. I would love to hear it. But that is going to be it for me. I will catch you guys in my next one. Thanks so much.